Good evening, and this is another recording session with attorney Rookwood. She's an immigration lawyer, family law lawyer, criminal defense lawyer in New York and New Jersey. And today's subject, we'll be discussing a topic really to our heart, right? We'll be talking about children, whether children can actually uh, shield us from deportation. That's what we want to know. We want to know that if you have a child, whether a child will help you out when you're in removal proceedings. As a reminder, we know that undocumented people or non-immigrant citizens may face removal proceedings and find themselves deportable based on a lot of grounds. I'm just going to lay out three that's coming to me right now. So basically, if somebody is out of status, they can find themselves in removal proceedings, or they're in violation of their immigration status. This is comes a lot with students. Students really sometimes they don't just understand the system, what they can do and what they cannot do, and sometimes they find themselves in violation of student visa and in removal proceedings. Then we have another category of people when they are being denied benefits. For example, asylum. If the asylum doesn't go right with the U.S. officer, you can find yourself in removal proceedings as well. You become deportable. And the last category, or just not really the last, but for the purpose of this video, the last category is people with criminal offenses. Some crimes will make you deportable. So, but now we want to know really whether if you have a child, whether the child will shield you from deportation. And we have our guest. She's the family law guru. Remember, guys, I'm taking family law cases, right? In DC only, for DC residents only. So I'll be taking cases when it comes to divorce, child custody, alimony, child support, prenup, after prenup, everything related to matrimonial law. But we have Cyprianne Rookwood, who's an expert because she has been practicing family law for a while, and she's going to really explain to us whether a child can help someone or shield someone from deportation. So, Cyprianne, take it over.
So I remember, hi everyone. Thank you again for having me on your channel, Bijoux. It's
Thank
always
you.
fun to do these with you. Oh, I remember when we decided when you approached me about this topic, and I thought, okay, um, how can we kind of talk about this subject, right? And
Uh-huh.
so I think I recall one of the topic or one of the discussions we had was can you be removed from the country and then the government just take your children, right?
Right.
And so that that's not really how it works, right? You still have due process of law. So the government cannot just take your children and then deport you. That's not really how it works. But having and again, as we had talked about earlier, Bijou, off camera, having children can bolster your ability to adjust status. But that having children of itself is not enough to prevent you from being deported if you basically, as we talked about in previous video, if you are deportable and you don't have a waiver or any other defense against deportation.
Right. So let me go again. We have this subject going on in this country. We have Rihanna who's going to have a child out of wedlock, and then a lot of women are being upset about it. I don't know why. The question now is, should I have a child in the marriage, or if I have a child outside of wedlock, is it going to really prevent me, or is it going to actually accelerate my deportation? So is there a difference between having a child in the marriage or outside of marriage? Is it really in other words, is that child right in terms of being a U.S. citizen, not they don't have enough right because they're actually born out of wedlock. Is that how it works or what?
No, not at all. So years ago, they did have this thing called legitimacy,
Mm-hmm.
where when the child is born in a marriage, they were considered more legitimate children because they were born of the marriage.
Uh-huh.
But that's not the case anymore, right? Children born outside of wedlock and children born to married couples
Mm-hmm.
have the same rights.
Same right.
The
Okay.
same rights. So the law doesn't recognize a difference.
Uh-huh.
Um, there is a slight difference when, as far as the father's rights, when the
Mm-hmm.
child is born out of wedlock, because of course you have to establish paternity and stuff like that. That's something that I will talk about on my channel when I go into that topic. But there's
Okay.
a slight difference with that. But as far as the rights of the child, there is no real differentiation between a child who's born outside of wedlock and one who's born in wedlock. As
Okay.
far as the person who is trying to adjust status,
Mm-hmm.
having a child outside of wedlock and having one to your partner, the only difference is that, of course, if you're married to a U.S. citizen
Mm-hmm.
and you have children who are U.S. citizen, it bolsters your ability to adjust status. So
All
that's
right.
it. It's an additional plus, right?
No.
If you're
Okay.
married to a U.S. citizen and you have children who are U.S. citizens. But if you're not married and you have children who are born in the U.S. and are U.S. citizen by just automatically, right? Born
Right.
here, a U.S. citizen,
Mm-hmm.
then that does help to bolster your ability to adjust status, because
Right.
then you're gonna say, I my children are born here, so I've established roots here, I have
Uh-huh.
connections here, and so
Right.
it makes your case look a little bit better to
Mm-hmm.
adjust status. But then again, as we talked about in previous videos, you just have to make sure you're not deportable or don't have a waiver or stuff like that.
Okay. So this is going to be like the last question. But we're gonna come back again to this topic later on. But this is going to be like the last point. So when we talk about people in removal proceedings, especially asylum applicants, sometimes when asylum doesn't really work, we go to the second defense, which is withholding of removal. And then a lot of people claim you can't really remove me because I have ties in the US, but because they have children. So, but in some instances, well, the government took those children because of the basically the crimes of those non-citizens. So now, can you actually tell us what type of reasons that will lead the government to take children from their parents and make those non-citizens removable, even though they can claim withholding of removal based on extreme hardship on the children? So, do you have any example?
So an example that I could think of, so here in New York,
Uh-huh.
we do have a state entity called the ACS, and it's basically a child protective service entity that, hold on one second.
Uh-huh.
It is a state agency that goes in to protect children from domestic violence, from child abuse, child neglect, stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
So in a situation where the offense is committed against the child,
Uh-huh.
that could be an instance where the child is removed from the parent. And if the parent is not a U.S. citizen or a U.S. resident or out of status in any way, that having the child, right, you can't use the child then to as a defense to
That's
stay because you've committed a crime against the child. So that might
oh,
not work in your favor in that instance.
okay.
So that's
So
just one quick example
well,
of a situation, a scenario.
okay. So now to answer our questions, basically to answer our main question, in conclusion, the child can help you out when you're in removal proceedings, especially when you want them to withhold removal. You can use a child as a defense, basically have a waiver and talk about extreme hardship on the children. But if you committed an offense against the child, and the state can step in to actually get the child from you, and that will not shield you from deportation, because now the child is no longer your child, or you committed a serious crime yourself, then the state can take the child away from you, and then you really don't have any other defense in terms of staying in the US. So we just have to be careful in terms of just stay out of trouble. In other words,
And
stay
yeah, and another thing to consider as well, the other parent, right? The child could be removed and placed with the other parent, and so you don't necessarily have a defense because the child is not left without a parent.
parents,
So there is
right?
something to that.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. You have two parents and one commits an offense, criminal offense, either their own crimes or the crime against the child. Then the child is removed from your responsibility, and then they give the responsibility to the other parent. So then you become removable and deportable, because now you really don't have any other defense, because then the government will say, well, the child's now being left alone, and this is a case that happened to some people from, I believe it was from Cameroon, where the husband and wife, they were married, husband and wife, but they both committed fraud in terms of fraudulent marriages. So they went ahead and got divorced. Again, we're talking about divorce here, right? If you need a divorce, you're here in DC, please call my office, 202-751-2180, if you're a resident of DC, of course. Call my office so we can handle it for you. When people come to us for divorce, they already made up their mind. Don't be thinking like I want people to get a divorce, right? It's not like that. When somebody comes, they already made up their mind. There's nothing a man can do about it. So when you need it, just call my office, 22751-2180. Back to the subject. So then they went ahead and committed fraudulent marriage separately. And then they find themselves in removal because of sham marriages. And now they said to the former wife that you can stay because you consider like the primary take care giver. Yeah, the primary caregiver of the child. But they told the former husband that you have to leave the country. That's how the former husband left the country up to now. So mind you, in conclusion, just stay out of trouble. That's it. So do you have anything else to add?
I actually no, I think you've covered for the most part everything, at least for now. But I do want to say that I've officially launched my YouTube channel, so you guys should totally check it out and subscribe and like for, especially if you're a New York residents or New Jersey residents, because I am licensed in both New York and New Jersey. And again, I handle family law, criminal defense, and immigration as well. So please go ahead and check out my channel and subscribe. Thanks again, Bijoux, for having me on your channel.
No problem. So before we leave, this is our Cyprianne number, 718-873265. I am going to leave all the links in the description box at the end of this video. So you can go ahead and please don't forget to subscribe. Okay, please don't forget to subscribe, because it is important that you subscribe so that you will have all the information that you need so you can make a very informed decision. Not to mention, if you need representation, then you can call her office if you're in New York or New Jersey. But if you're around here, the DC metropolitan area, then you can call my number. Again, thanks for joining us. This is a recorded live session. We are going to come up with more videos in the days to come. Don't forget to follow me on those platforms, okay? So don't forget to follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, okay? So I'm gonna leave all the things in the description box. Until next time, thank you for joining me, And I hope that we'll make a lot of videos in the coming days. Stay tuned. Until next time, bye-bye.